So we now have a 15th five-year plan that was just presented at the National People's Congress. When you look at this five-year plan, what do you reckon China will focus on big time for the next 5 years?
So China's 15th five-year plan sends a message of stability and of strength aimed at building out the areas in which China is strong.
Such as?
China is especially strong in manufacturing because they have the whole supply chain at home. And so increasingly also what you might see is when it comes to, for example, and increasingly what you might see when it comes, for example, to chip manufacturing, is that they might not focus so much on individual technologies, such as the ASML machines, which we all know.
What is China going to focus on for the next 5 years?
Looking at this 15th five-year plan, we see that China wants to build out the strength of its industrial system. The idea being that it can gird itself against the growing global instability and domestic economical challenges by leveraging its supply chain strength. Because China is quite unique in the world that its manufacturing industry has most of its chain at home. And so it can use the fact that it has this whole industrial system at home to compensate for weak areas. For example, the ASML machines, which China doesn't have, maybe it can compensate elsewhere in the supply chain or in the manufacturing chain of semiconductor chips.
Right, but it wants to keep control, basically.
China wants to keep control. It is also explicitly one of the goals of this five-year plan to increase Beijing's independent supply chains.
And so we're talking about a five-year plan here. When you look at that phenomenon itself, what exactly is a five-year plan?
So when we say the word five-year plan, many people think that it's an Excel sheet full of numbers. But actually it is not. Especially this high-level national document contains some numbers, but is mainly a list of policy concepts. These policy concepts will go to lower-level officials who will actually turn the words into actions.
Right, okay. And so prior to the actual presentation of the five-year plan, which we recently saw, there is a lot of discussion.
The five-year plan is the result of many years of research and discussion by experts within the bounds of China's limited political system, who feed these results into a policy process at the center of the party, where Xi Jinping and his Politburo decide on what the eventual outline is.
Right, but when they present the document, it is actually already, there has been the discussion, decisions have been taken, the presentation in itself in a parliament where we might expect discussion, there is no discussion possible anymore.
Yeah, so by the time the five-year plan reaches China's legislature, it is no longer necessary to discuss it, because the discussions and even the study sessions to explain the five-year plan to the party cadres who will vote on it have already taken place.
Right, so it's actually a more dynamic process than one would expect, perhaps.
If you just look at the rows and rows of people all voting yes on this plan in Beijing every March, every 5 years, you might think it is just a rubber stamp. And it is a rubber stamp, but it is because the real discussion happened before.
Okay, so now that we have this five-year plan, what's next?
What is next, now the five-year plan has been formally adopted, is that all these party cadres will go back to their localities, hold study sessions with their local people, for everybody to internalize all the concepts and understand what all these difficult words mean. And then they go working to turn these words into actions to devise the concrete plans. So for example, if you're an official who wants to know where the next EV factory is going to be, you might want to look at the provincial five-year plans, which will come out soon as well.